Thomas, do you know what's on the menu?
Oh my, what is it? Is it
Well,
could it be pale blue eyes?
yeah, that's one. That's absolutely one. Yeah, we have a visit with Mr. Edgar Allan Poe, and we
Mhm.
also have a cooking show, which is a very it parts it's funny, at parts it's horrific. uh, but anyway, all shtick aside, how you doing, Thomas?
I'm good. Yeah, a couple weeks ago you added I think you were like, "Hey, let's talk about pale blue eyes." And uh things being what they are, both me and you last week
Yeah.
weren't able to do it. So I was like, well, let's add another thing to the menu. And I added the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a last minute addition. Yeah, I had my dryer breakdown, some personal
Yeah.
whatever. Anyway, you're very fortunate. You're very gracious and flowing with me. But in any case, we're the first to last of the Nerdom.
Mhm.
I'm Mike, and my co-host here is Thomas, and
Yeah,
we're going
I'm
to be
currently Thomas.
currently exactly. Yeah, and we're just like getting ready here to go into the to this week's movies. But with that
Mhm.
being said, please follow us on YouTube.
Mhm.
On and That's where we release our content. We have a couple shows a week,
Mhm.
and we are well on our way in 2023. I think we took a pretty sizable break last year around this
Mhm.
time. I think
I
we
think
took a
so.
yeah, I think we took a little hiatus there. But in any
Mhm.
case, yeah. So this week we're covering the menu, and which I was surprised. I was very surprised. It was a very good surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, the menu and pale blue eyes or eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pale blue eye is sort of like a slow, sort of a procedural, sort of like kind of mystery, whereas the
Hmm.
menu is also mystery, but you're like right there in the middle of it, and you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah. The Pale Blue Eyes, more classic noir kind of. Well, not
Hmm.
maybe kind of noirish, I guess.
Hmm.
Insofar as like there's a mystery, and you hear the characters, you're introduced to them one at a time. The menu, you literally join the crowd from the jump. You're off on this thing, and then it's kind of like it was very good to be dropped in the middle like that, like the way the menu
Hmm.
did, because it picks up and it starts off right away, and there's this thing of like, oh, you've seen this a million times before with like every other cooking show, or or Hell's Kitchen, or they pay homage to a lot of that. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, these are the two this
Hmm.
week. And again, if you could like, subscribe, comment,
Hmm.
we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
If you disagree with us after this show or past shows, we'd love to hear from you. In any case, so yeah. So what do you want to jump into first? I think we'll actually think we already jumped into Pale Blue Eyes first
Right.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
It's a sort of a mystery. It like there's a murder mystery in a is it a naval academy? I forget what
Yeah,
type of military. Okay, a naval academy,
sounds
and
right. Yep.
yeah,
Well,
the
yeah, West Point.
yeah, West Point.
West Point's fine.
There's a murder mystery, and one of
Right.
the guys that are involved in this academy is Edgar Allan Poe. So, the guy that's trying to solve the mystery engages Edgar Allan Poe in this mystery, and so the idea is that he's kind of bouncing ideas with Edgar Allan Poe. He doesn't
Hmm.
know if Edgar Allan Poe is like actually involved in the murder or not. Although he did, it seems like from the show that he knows that he's not, so that he's sort of like his confidant, and he's kind of bouncing ideas off of. And that's sort of how the story goes. There's not a whole lot of, unlike the first two-thirds of the movie, there's not a whole lot of um like engaging stuff. He's the main character, which Christian Bale's character, he's trying to solve the mystery, and he's interviewing all these different people, and there's a lot of back and forth as far as the story goes, but there's not like a whole lot of reveals. Um, what did you think when you're watching this?
This one, I remember hearing about this before the end of last year, and I was curious about it, and then I kind of forgot about it, and then somebody mentioned it on Twitter, I think, and I was like, I got to check that out. And then I scrolled and I looked at it to see what it was, because I wasn't too clear on. I didn't see a trailer or anything. I just saw talk, and I saw it was Christian Bale, and then honestly, Christian Bale was in a photo shoot not too long ago with GQ late last year or something. Anyway, he was wearing what. The only reason why I don't, I'm hardly a fashion connoisseur or anything like that, but I remember reading the article and seeing the pictures on GQ, and it was like a certain kind of. It was exactly like this, like what he was wearing in Pale Blue Eyes. That's what reminded me of it, and I kind of put two and two together, like, oh, okay. Anyway, in any case, I think this came out around that time, which makes sense because stars go and do their thing. So, his aesthetic was like very much like this, not quite old timey, but like a modern day kind of very, fallish winter type wardrobe. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But so I saw it and I saw, Edgar. I love Edgar Allan Poe. I love poetry as like a thing to enjoy once in a while. I have a big, thick book of poems like Norton's anthology, whatever, because they're just kind of fun to learn about and kind of nerd out a little. Nerd out. I know nothing about anything, so I don't want to claim anything. I just like books. That's all. But anyway, I saw this and it was an easy in, and then I just started watching it and I was like, oh man, and then I stopped watching it to see if I was into it, see if it was like what this thing is, and then I reached out to you and I mentioned it, and then was like, oh well, let's finish watching it. So anyway, long-winded way of saying I found it by I guess the currents of media. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Christian Bale in this, and I am a big Christian Bale fan. But I love the actor who played Cadet Edgar Allan Poe.
yeah, and I know you're not a Harry Potter guy, but the guy that played Edgar Allan Poe is played Dudley in Harry Potter, and which I kept thinking, I know this guy, and when I started looking into it afterwards, it's like, oh, okay, he's from Harry Potter. He's Dudley. But yeah, I of course I'm a big Edgar Allan Poe fan because I'm into horror, of course. But I was never like super into Edgar Allan Poe. But you have to know Edgar Allan Poe if you're into horror.
Oh
Obviously.
yeah. I don't want to misrepresent myself. Like I am not like Edgar Allan Poe isn't like my all-time favorite, poet. But obviously, when you're a kid, you get introduced to some of those, like the Telltale Heart and others. Anyway. You do either you go on and you revisit and you have an opinion or a taste. But anyway, his every part of his I haven't read near any of any volume, considerable volume of Edgar Allan Poe, but I've absolutely enjoyed what I've read, and it's just kind of funny, like how is this gonna work, and then you just kind of stick with it, and then you're like, oh, Cadet, from the get go, I love Harry's acting. He's just the most bizarre creature. And you're just like, what are you talking about? You're just kind of and you kind of have the same reaction as Christian Bale's character. And he's supposed to be like some super sleuth kind of type character, and he's contracted out by the military academy to come out and solve this whatever this is.
This mystery,
right. This mystery,
this murder, a murder mystery.
Right.
That they want to quickly solve it and put it under the rug. So they're maybe not as interested in solving it as as far as getting it out of the way so that they can move on with their day. And yeah, so but Christian
Yeah.
Bale is very much into solving the mystery, which is interesting in a lot of levels. After you see the movie and understand the full depth of the narrative, the fact that that he wants it to be solved is very interesting in and of itself.
Right. Yeah. And the cadet the murder scene, it was
Hmm.
kind of sort of made to look a certain kind of way,
Hmm.
but it wasn't really fooling anybody. When you kind of push through the the reasoning or whatever, it kind
Hmm.
of things start to fall apart, and it's very clearly a murder. I believe,
Hmm.
as you kind of get dealt in slowly, as you kind of learn it at the speed of Christian Bale, essentially.
Hmm.
But it was good. I really enjoyed this. Um, you know, it had some peculiarness to it, but it was like oh, the poem, okay. And then you
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of little things where like tips its hat to previous things. Like obviously you see ravens in the in the
yep.
background, and I love period pieces, and I love period pieces and snow. I don't know what it is, but I love that shit. So
Yeah, yeah.
that was very much my jam. And I love like very slow period pieces, and this is what at its core is what this movie is. So I really enjoyed it. The first 2/3 of the movie I really loved. Um, it it kind of enveloped me, and I really enjoyed watching the movie. Now the last third of the movie, now I won't get into spoilers since we don't normally do that. But
Not really, not
they
unless it's like over 25 years old or something.
yeah, right,
Anyway, go on.
exactly. So it starts getting into a maybe a dark element of it that just didn't jive with me, because it didn't really develop that part of it enough for
Mhm.
me uh to really go along with it. The last 1/3 of the movie was a bit struggling for me. I had a bit of difficulty with it. I
Yeah,
don't know if you did or not.
so I didn't rewatch it twice per se, but I watched probably about the first quarter of it before I was like, but actually I went to bed. But that's when I stopped watching it. And I was like,
Hmm.
hey, we should probably watch this for the show or whatever. And I
Uh-huh.
wanted to keep it fresh. And then when I started to pick up where I left off at, it went very smoothly. I agree with you. It seems like it does flow like through three-quarters of the movie, and then like the last half, it kind of, I don't know where it goes, but you're not quite on the same ride as the one that you started on. I'll put it that way. If that makes
Right.
sense. And I still enjoyed it. It just wasn't like, you know, uh, I don't know how to,
Yeah. I will.
let's put it this way. Between the menu and this one, I think I lean toward the menu a little bit more in enjoyment. But
Yeah.
that's part of a little bit later conversation, for
Right.
sure.
But also I will say that last week was Edgar Allan Poe's birthday, and
Hmm.
I think one of the big mysteries that have been going on for the past few years is that there's this there's not currently a guy that's doing it, but for the past several decades, this guy had came to Edgar Allan Poe's funeral or his headstone and have left like a little bit of wine and a little bit of poem, and kind of toasted his birthday each
Oh,
year. And I found that kind of interesting. But yeah, it's like I think the past couple of years, the guy that originally had been doing it had passed away, and there's like a new guy that has started it. Um, but yeah, I don't know if he's currently still doing it. I think they may have passed it on to another person. But yeah. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that his And also another thing that I found interesting about Edgar Allan Poe is that um, when he died, his physician became very evangelical, and
Mm.
he promoted the idea that um, Edgar Allan Poe had died in in the alley, and that he had been he is poor, and that he had died kind of penniless and drunk
Mm.
and whatnot. However, uh, the people that has exhumed his body and have previously kind of exhumed him has kind of found that he was actually the victim of rabies. That he
Oh, no kidding.
that he may have been attacked by maybe a
Oh,
dog or
wow.
something, and
Right.
that because when he went into the hospital at his end of his life, he wasn't found dead in the alley. He actually had to went into the hospital, and he wasn't able to drink water, or he was able to communicate properly, and that is a sign of rabies. Is you can't drink, and that you aren't able to talk properly. So yeah, that's that could be actually what he died of.
That's crazy. Yeah, I did not know that. But yeah, this I just kind of did a little quick search there, little
Hmm.
search foo, and that's crazy. That would make
Yeah.
sense though, because
Hmm.
of well, the it kind of goes into here,
Yeah,
what
and
he was known
actually,
for.
his doctor became an evangel a priest. So that he kind of used Poe as a pulpit to preach,
Oh, okay.
the promises of Christianity.
Uh,
He used Poe to throw Poe under the bus, so to speak.
oh, so
To
if you don't repent, you'll
Yeah,
become like this poor loser
right,
who got blah blah
absolutely.
blah. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
you end up in the
Nice.
alley, drunk and penniless in the alley,
Uh-huh.
like Poe, if you don't like repent.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, so that's the what I can't stand with people that use other people to step up, and it's just
I
I
agree
don't
with that. Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, and we might. Well, I doubt we'll cover it in our grab bag, but there was definitely some of that
know.
shenanigans going on the internet
Yeah.
in other circles. But no, I
Hmm.
agree with you. I don't care
Hmm.
for. I don't care for that. I don't care
Hmm.
for.
Yeah,
I don't.
no
But
matter how bad Poe was, you don't use him to step on him to make yourself look better.
right, right. Well,
um
look what it was a hideous thing that. Well, of course, back then too, a lot of times
mhm,
people would morality was definitely a physical, tangible thing back then. And it was very well. That's the Victorian era, maybe something like that. I don't know those dates exactly, but
mhm,
anyway, the point being, back then people had a tendency to
mhm,
associate morality with your ethnicity or your job or your
mhm,
whatever, like whether you were a bum or whatever,
mhm,
that kind of thing. That was definitely a lot
mhm.
more prevalent back then. And it still is today, but it's a different version of it, I
Yeah.
guess. But anyway, kind of
Yeah.
pulling it back. Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing
Yeah.
Christian Bale. That was probably like the biggest. Well, him and Harry, honestly, that was probably
Yeah.
my two favorite treats.
Yeah. Yeah, I did enjoy it. Like I said, like the last third of the movie, I was like, oh wait, what's going on here? And I
Right.
was kind of pulled back a little bit, but I did enjoy it overall. Maybe not as much as you did, but I did enjoy it. And then I recommended The Menu for our
Mhm.
second half of our talk.
Yes.
Uh, and I watched this movie and was like, oh my God, what the F? I love this movie. So I wanted to introduce it to you, Mike. And what did you think?
I was blown away. For one thing, I kind of have a new thing that I do. I used to like if somebody told me about a movie or something, I would go watch the trailer at some point.
Hmm.
I don't do that anymore because there's a broken trailer economy. Because you
Yeah.
see a trailer and you don't know what the hell the movie's about. And sometimes that's not the point of the trailer. Sometimes the point of the trailer is to get interest or hype or whatever. So
Hmm.
I've stopped doing that, and I just jumped into it, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad my thoughts weren't tainted by anything else, because it's like at first, you're thrown, and like I said, it kicks off right away. You're thrown in this group. Well, initially with this couple, and then it's
Hmm.
kind of it's like okay, and then you wait a little bit, and then they go to vote, and then they do the thing, and then it's like it was a great surprise every step of the way. It was really I really enjoyed it. I think I got more out of it than Pale Blue Eyes. Not to say that I didn't enjoy that. I did, but I agree. There's a reason why people aren't talking about Pale Blue Eyes beyond the first couple weeks that it's been on, and
Hmm.
that's because movies tend to be really good or good enough, and then they kind of get sucked up. I think that's probably why it didn't get. It's probably not all that great of a movie
Yeah.
if you're a critic
Yeah.
for Pale Blue Eyes. Like it's perfectly serviceable, but I mean I enjoy it probably more than like a critic would. But in any case, the menu was like I got to tell you, man, you know how to pick them. Like
Yeah, it's like I think with both movies, acting wise, both have standout performances. Both
oh yeah,
have like really great actors.
yeah.
Where
But yeah, you sorry to interrupt. But I think the menu has just a little bit more than Pale Blue Eyes did.
I
But
think,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I think the menu had a little bit more spark to it.
Yeah.
Again, to kind of get into the story, if you aren't familiar with it, is like these a group of people. They're going to this island to experience this chef's experience of a night dining. They're all going to this island to delight in this chef's perfect vision of this night's dining. And so it's sort of like this dining experience that's for the rich, that only a select few can enjoy. So this handful of people go take a boat to this island to experience this experience, and things go awry,
Yes,
so to
they do.
speak. Now we won't go into details, obviously, because we don't want to spoil the adventure for you. But yeah, if you're thinking, "Oh, cannibals," yeah, that's not where it goes.
No, yeah, no, and I love that I let the story. I love that I went in completely blind,
Hmm.
and I think that's really the way to go in this. Not every movie needs to. You don't need to do that, but because
Hmm.
sometimes you can't escape the black hole that is media
Yeah.
or advertising or whatever. Especially if you're on any kind of social media, or even if you're adjacent to
Hmm.
social media, it doesn't matter. You're gonna hear something.
Hmm.
And yeah, I let's see, why did I like this one? I I like the so I think that Pale Blue Eyes is like, well, they're two different kind of stories of how the tale unwound.
Hmm.
But it seemed like the Pale Blue Eyes, you're a little bit more intimate with the Christian Bale character with Augustus.
Hmm.
Whereas this one, you're not really married to anybody. I mean, you kind of sort of come in on the coattails of this one couple, and I
Hmm.
won't spoil anything beyond that. But like as it kind of approaches, the evening kind of unwinds, and you kind of start to get a feel for the people in the room.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and there's
yeah,
not like one single character.
no, no,
There is like a main character and his girlfriend, but there's not any characters in that you could kind of relate to each of the people that are involved in the situation. And that's key to the story, in that you don't um there's not like one particular bad guy. You know, you want to like everybody that's involved in it, and
Right.
then so you have this this situation where things start to tighten, and like certain people are like maybe pointed as bad people, uh whereas yeah, like I don't know if I think they're that bad. and that's the key to the story, is that
Yeah.
is there really a bad person in a situation? It's all about perspective. It's also about, I love that. I don't know, Mike, if you were ever in the when you were working in the job sphere, as far as working in retail, or
Oh yeah. I
as a person in the you know, like
oh
working
yeah.
in a restaurant or whatnot.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'll say this about the service industry or whatever. I worked pizza delivery as a side
Hmm.
job for many years, off and on. It was just
Hmm.
perfect. You could roll in. You had just the you had just enough, exposure with the public, and you had just enough exposure with the thing. Like you didn't have to,
Hmm.
occasionally you have to hop in and make a pizza or something. But yeah, so absolutely there in that. And but I do firmly remember. Now, one of the things I did not do. I did work in a couple of restaurants growing up. I worked for about 3 weeks at a Wendy's.
Hmm.
And for all I know, my memory could have been, it was probably more like 3 days. Like I think I got
Hmm.
through like I definitely made it through the first week for training. And then like I got to like the point and I was like,
Hmm.
I'm done.
Right.
I walked away. And then later on I got a job at a pretty cool supper club place, and it was a busboy basically. And then we would alternate. We would either do wash the dishes in the back, and you could dress up as whatever, wear your headphones or whatever, kind of sort of. You had to pay attention and all that, but it was pretty cool. And then the other nights you'd have to wear, your little nice button-up shirt, and then you have your pitcher of water, and you go refill everybody's water and take the plates and all this. So yeah, I definitely did. But yeah, this there's a interesting kind of like class thing going on here. I don't want
Yeah,
to get
absolutely.
I don't want to break too much into it, but
All right.
I also want to make this observation, kind of throw it out. So okay, typically in horror movies, certain kind of horror movies, there are rules. Okay. And
Hmm.
what I'm talking about like kind of the throwaway scary ones,
Hmm.
whatever. There are rules, or so to speak. And if you can
Hmm.
figure out the rules, then you can live. And
Hmm.
this didn't directly have that, but it kind of
Yeah.
had a little bit of a variation on it. But it was original and fresh in how they did it. And I
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. And
I
that's,
loved how it was kind of in your. I loved how they did it. I just love. I don't want to do
yeah.
anything. I don't want to
Hmm.
give any way. I don't want to give anything away. But like
Yeah. And
that part is very, very interesting to
mhm.
me. To be honest
Yeah.
with
And
you.
I recommended Colors of Darkness, I think the name of the podcast is. I always
Hmm.
forget the name of it. But they,
Yeah, you mentioned
they,
that like a couple weeks ago, 2 or
yeah,
3 weeks
yeah,
ago. Like, yeah.
yeah, they recommended, one of them recommended as their top 10 horror movies of 2022, and the other guy was like, is it really a horror movie? And that's the cool thing about the movie, is that you can have the debate on whether or not it's actually a horror movie. I land squarely in the field of, it's definitely a horror movie, and I probably think you do too, but
Yeah, no,
but yeah.
okay, but let's just play this game. Okay, okay, let's say we don't call it a horror movie, then what are other people calling it?
I think I I don't know.
Well,
I
I saw like dark comedy, but
Yeah,
like it
dark
goes
dark
way
comedy is
beyond
probably
dark
be
comedy.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
it's not like some kind of slapstick, kind of, yeah, whatever.
yeah, I think a lot of people have a bad connotation when they think of horror movies. So a lot of people don't want to tie a good movie to a horror movie,
Yeah,
is because of that. But yeah,
I do.
it's
That's got to be a podcast for another time, because I don't understand
yeah.
that now. And don't get me wrong, like I before then the last year, say 2 years ago, I was not really into. I would not have considered myself a horror movie fan, and I just kind of pumping the brakes there for a second. But now that
Mhm.
I've got, really what it was I was always into it, not in the certain genres that necessarily you cover. You're very wide ranging, but I was
Hmm.
like more into the True Detective type things, the
Hmm.
just the things like where you don't know what the hell, like just like that
Hmm.
spider head thing. That's that kind of that play, that psyche sphere kind of you're
Hmm.
going into that depths. I love that. And it turns out that, but I turns out I also like in love other
Yeah.
variations on the theme of horror. But yeah, in any case, yeah, I don't. That's strange to me. I don't know. Like now that I see
Hmm.
it, and because it stands up, and I mean,
Hmm.
some of the all-time best movies ever are horror. Or they're a mix. It's
Yeah.
the I think in Aliens, Alien. I mean that's
Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, and the menu is, I don't know, it kind of plays into the idea of the whole restaurant culture, which I really have kind of dived into with all the stupid uh reality shows with
right,
all
right,
the Gordon Ramsay shows, all the Food Network has plenty of shows on there
right.
that ties into the whole thing.
Hey,
There's a actually this last week I started watching this other Food Network foodie restaurant guy that.
one.
All right, guys, I think we kind of got a little disconnect here, but yeah, I was talking about how I enjoyed like the food channels, the
Mhm.
various Food Network and Gordon Ramsay shows and stuff. And I'm a very much a food guy. I watch all that crap. I don't know. I don't. I watch all that crap, but then I go to Burger King, so I don't know if I'm all that much of a food critic guy. But what's your perspective on things, Mike?
I go through phases like where I'll be honest with you. So this kind of comes with being a little bit older, being a boomer, so to speak. I kind of sort of
Mhm.
miss broadcast live TV sometimes, and I will periodically subscribe to YouTube TV. I don't have it on
Mhm.
all the time because it's just after a while it's just like I'm paying for one. I've never watched anything. I mean it's a great
Mhm.
value, I guess. But anyway, point being, every time I go back, I always rediscover something on the House Hunters or like the DIY,
Mhm.
whatever that thing is. And Food Network is one that I will absolutely return to and be like, hey, does Rachel Ray still have a show? What's Giada De Laurentiis doing? Or is there, like, or diners, drives, and diners, drives, and whatever.
Yeah.
That guy.
Mhm.
But yeah, big fan.
Mhm.
Love to watch it. Most of the time, it's just entertainment. If I do watch something or cook something, honestly, it's funny. It probably won't be a recipe from them. It's probably something from YouTube, like Binging with Babish, or some other kind of thing too. Which I'm sure there's a whole other subgenre of cooking stuff on YouTube that you follow too. But
Yeah, there's I have to recommend there's this guy I started watching called Chef Brian Soa. But he watches a lot of react videos for Uncle Roger. And Uncle Roger is this crazy guy that reviews Food Network stuff.
oh, okay.
And yeah, uh, it's a rabbit hole you can dive down into. Uh, but uh, but yeah, I just recently started diving down into it last week. But yeah, um, yeah, if you look up Uncle Roger on YouTube, you probably could find some interesting videos. Uh, but yeah, uh, yeah, he's an interesting guy. But yeah, to get it back on point, the menu is like one of my favorite movies I've seen in a while. Again, if I saw it last year, when it first came out, it would probably been one of my favorite movies of last year. But it's definitely one of my favorite movies as this year. It's definitely a horror movie, and it takes you in places that you wouldn't imagine. If you're much of a food guy, then this is definitely a movie for you.
Awesome. Oh, I don't want to see the thing. Yeah, no, I was just trying to. Hopefully, that's the. I think that's. Well, that's.
That's the channel. Yeah, that's
okay. Cool.
Uncle Roger.
You're sure because you're like looking for a thing, character he plays, whatever.
yeah. He's very much. I think he's from England, so he has very much an English accent.
Right.
But when he does his Uncle Roger persona, it's very much a stereotypical Asian guy, and he makes fun of people that do Asian food. It's very entertaining, maybe politically incorrect, but he's Asian, so I think that falls in the area of okay.
That's in the rules and the bounds.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't disagree. Well, that's just kind of like there's another Asian comedian that I like that does it. Like basically, he just does his like Asian. He became a meme. He was like he did the emotional damage one. That was him.
Oh, he does. He references that. He referenced that a lot.
Yeah, but that's a black. You want to talk about a black hole? Well, everything on YouTube could be a black hole. You so know. But cooking food, I'm a big fan of the. I'm not so much like the Hell's Kitchen type. Kind of like if it's on, I wouldn't turn it. I'd probably like okay, fine, we'll watch it. But like I don't like go and search it out. Like I like the Of course, when I was married once upon a time, my wife, ex-wife, loved watching the what was the one with Alton Brown as a judge, or they rotated. They would do Iron Chef. I think it was Iron Chef.
Iron Chef is one of those. Yeah, I loved Gordon Ramsay. I mean, I get into calling people stupid donkeys, but it's it is what it is.
We have a coworker who we worked with a long time ago that like to use that phrase donkey. Like this person's a donkey.
yeah, that's true.
Anyway, shout out to you, Josh. Anyway, well, he might watch some sci-fi stuff, but he told me about sliders. But anyway, come back to the menu. The thing is like that like we're like people, and you kind of get. I don't want to go into spoilers, but there was a part very early on where this stuff is going, where everything is going on, the courses are served, and I can't remember in between which one. I'm sure there might be some significance to that too. Who knows? But there was like a very small part where you kind of crack the basically like kind of crack the pot there, and you could see what was cooking or how it was.
Right.
They kind of gave you a key a little bit. I'll put it that way. But but you don't that doesn't come back for later, and then it's just like oh man.
Yeah, and like the main character, if it was a regular movie, Tyler, which is the main would mean the main character of the story, normally, he is the main character for a while of the story, and like every other character in the story, he's treated like a human being. A lot of times, a lot of the characters in a horror movie are treated like throwaways. It's like if they're gonna to die eventually in a horror movie, they're gonna be treated as like a less than human, not really something you should care about. Don't think about them. Whereas every single character in this movie is very thought out, and even the smallest character is very thought out in very small detail, that you can relate to them in a certain degree. And this character could have been a caricature in most movies, but in this movie he's very much real, and something you can see in a person that you would relate to day to day, and would see from day to day. And so the character arc that he has within the story is very interesting. No matter how you relate to that character, it's very very relatable.
actually, it's funny you bring this up organically. That was the one. I don't want to be spoiler about it, but like it was talking high concepts, I guess. But I didn't understand his put this way, when his how to put it, when his stop came, uh at the train stop. What's called a train stop for him to get off the train. Uh, how do you explain that? Like, I didn't quite get. I mean, maybe I'm missing something, or I'm too dense, or like maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know. But like when I
I,
saw that, like I kind of, I didn't quite get the thing. And if you're game to go into it a little bit, I don't think it's going to spoil anything on the movie.
yeah, I think what he's trying to say is, well, there's a point where there's a chef, and then there's all these people that go to see the chef, and he was like
Right,
the ultimate fan of the chef. he
super fan.
he
Right,
actually he's a super fan,
Stan.
and he knew he knew like all in where this thing was going. He was actually
Mm.
told by the chef how
Oh,
this
right. That's
this
right.
thing was going to end, and we
Right.
won't go into spoilers, but um I think there's this sort of fan that is like all in on things. There this online fan,
Oh,
that like no matter
okay.
where the person they idolize is,
Oh
we'll take
shit.
them to the end, no matter where the end is.
Holy
um
shit. You're
so
right.
yeah.
I don't know why I didn't put that
Mhm.
together, but when he got off the train, okay, that makes sense. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense because oh, I can't believe I didn't I mean, I knew like I kind of knew he was like, and I'm not spoiling anything, but he's a sycophant. He's like the super fan stan, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
He's the guy that becomes the stalker, and he's one of these guys that is that LSU gymnast or whatever. That he's one of those guys that just shows up to like randomly at like at a college gymnastics meetup,
Like,
like you oh
hello.
yeah, yeah, okay, all right, yeah, no, and but anyway, kind of get back out of this cul-de-sac here, without spoiling too much of the movie. I think we're doing a good job. Yeah, I agree with you. The characters are well, pale blue eyes is a completely different set, so that's a different thing. But
Yeah,
and then you
if you want a really low burn murder mystery, go
right,
to Pale Blue Eyes, whereas it amps up in the last half or
right,
last third of the movie, that may go in a direction that you may not like. Whereas the menu is like again a slow burn movie that has a mystery to it, but there's there's like a degree of rising heat that goes from the
there,
very beginning to the end. That
that's great. There's an undercurrent of a heavy friggin' sarcasm
Yeah,
throughout the whole thing
right.
on the characters, and to
Mhm,
kind of repeat what you were saying, the characters there's so many of them. One thing, it
mhm,
really. I just want to shout out the director here real quick before we get too crazy. Mark Mylod. I want to see more of
mhm.
his stuff because
Yeah.
how he did these characters,
Mhm,
there was so much more depth than a stupid caricature or like,
mhm,
oh, here comes the bimbo character. Oh, here comes the
mhm.
token blah 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 character. No, 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 no. These people like you kind of. It's almost as if you had a seat there too,
Mhm.
and you were there the whole evening. And of course, like that's just how it was when I watched it anyway. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and like say Ralph Fiennes is the chef of the movie, which he's the obviously star of the movie. And then Anya Taylor-Joy, which is Margot. She's like the female character that gets invited in
hmm,
into the thing. Sort of like Eris. She's not like she didn't know about the situation as she was invited in, and she's one of our favorite actresses. She was also in the Northman, and also she was in the Witch, which she was great in both of those movies. uh
absolutely.
yeah, and also another standout actor that I found in it was John Leguizamo. I'm not always a fan of his,
I
but
was
he's
waiting for
great
us
in
to
this.
cover that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he is like, damn. Like like, okay, I'll put it this way. Like probably 10 or 15 years ago, if John Leguizamo was in a movie, you thought he was the token comedy slapstick, like just kind of like a campy kind of comedian kind of vibe, whatever. And he kind of got that rap, I think, a little bit for parts, maybe. I'm probably using bad verbiage, but regardless, but in this one, no. It was he did a good job. Again, these people delivered, all the actors on the menu, I think, delivered absolutely. I think they absolutely did a great job. Whereas like Pale Blue Eyes was like a smaller finite amount of people who also did a good job, but really Harry did a phenomenal job, and so did Christian Bale, and the other characters did fine too, don't get me wrong, but like those two, like, I mean, they pretty much make the movie. Not
Yeah.
beating around the bush, but
Yeah.
but yeah, the menu, I definitely got more goodness out of the thing. But you're right, here is a slow burn, murder mystery. If you don't know, yeah, and these things are not. I don't know about you, but like I mean, I don't pride myself on calling things out in the movie, whether you think them or whether you're sitting with the movie and there's that type of, again, type of person who just like will holler out the curve or the next thing up, or like I call it, or like whatever. That's kind of fun to do too. But yeah, this one was just like, it was a hard punch in the face, like in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I think even if you kind of have an idea of what the menu is about,
right.
sitting down and watching it without knowing exactly what it's about, it will have an effect on you. Even if you kind of know how it plays out, it still has definitely an effect on you.
Yeah, I think that there were so many things that this movie did well. I think one of the things I think that worked for me the best was, it was able to waltz in and out of tropes and pull them off, without you being pulled out of the story. I was not pulled out of the story, like when okay, classic horror scary movie thing. They're on an island. Last boat
Yeah,
leaves. This
yeah.
trope has been done a million times, but here they are, and here you
Yeah,
are, and you accept it, and it works, and they pull it off.
yeah,
That
yeah.
one,
I
the
think
rules. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, no, I was going to say that. Yeah, I think it plays out well in that it plays it as not a horror movie, so that when the the boat goes off and leaves everybody, no one feels scared. No one feels scared once you get
Right.
to the restaurant. No one gets
No,
scared that the doors get shut.
right.
Yeah.
Because it's
It
not. Yeah. No. Go on.
No, you don't get scared until you start realizing, oh yeah, crap, all this stuff is closed off. I'm locked off on this island with this crazy guy that may or may not kill me for his menu.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you're kind of like you're looking for, if you read and what Thomas just said is no different than what you would read in the description, on the 10, as it were. But yeah, and in first, like at first blush, the only kind of parts that you're even hinted at that you're in a different place that you probably don't want to be is when they're doing the tour before they get to the dinner.
The restaurant, yeah.
And yeah, and you see like the barracks, and they're very austere, they're very military, they're a barracks, meaning that, in the military, I'm very familiar with this, like sleep you sleep in a big friggin' room, with everybody else, and bunk beds usually, more beds too, but you kind of have and then the older school military barracks would have those toilets like they had in the movie, like where there's like a half wall and there's like the toilets, you know. So these people are living very austere, very ritual. Not ritual is the wrong word. Very militaristic. Very. There's another word for it, but they're very, very, very Spartan-esque. I don't know how to put it,
Spartan,
but
yeah,
they're very.
Spartan, yeah. I think you say, yeah.
You know what? Cult. That's what I'm trying to think. Like
Yeah.
very cult-like
Mhm.
with a very sharp edge of order.
Yeah, I think that yeah, that's definitely a good
Yeah, so
way of
you kind
putting
of
it.
get a yeah, they kind of wink at you then a little
Mhm.
bit, like, hey, and then you kind of see the other characters who are complete from a completely different end of the economic spectrum, and how their reaction to it is, and like, oh, how quaint.
Mhm.
Nobody kind of really takes it serious,
Yeah.
but like as they drill into this more and more, there
Mhm.
is no humor in any of this from certain staff, like where they don't, it
Right.
doesn't dawn on them that like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, there yeah, there's various levels to this,
like,
and
I got
like you said,
I got
the staff of it is very much um sort of looking at as what oh
reminded me of. I don't want to say it on the thing. I just sent you that
yeah.
what bothered me about sorry, go ahead. Tyler's character.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why.
there's that too. But yeah, there's this overwhelming sense that like the staff of the show is very much militaristic in how they're trying to perform, and that's very much like the very interesting like food shows that we watch. There's like this militaristic regimen that they have of yes chef, this is what we're doing, and then there's also the levels of the customer and what the high level of what the customer expects, and there's a chef in between trying to navigate the waters of what the customer wants and what the people are producing in the you know in the where they're serving the food, and there's that interesting interplay of what they want and what they're served. It's kind of fascinating, the antagonism that develops between the customer and the people producing what they want, and that's sort of in any service industry. There's that that antagonism between the producer and the customer, and this movie kind of focuses in very clearly on this this dichotomy that is produced between the two.
Right. Yeah. No. Totally. There's a tension that the again the Mark Mylod builds that it is critical, and he nailed the pacing. He nailed he knew how to keep that tenseness going. And even
Mhm.
again, kind of going back to the trope thing, even like when so and so character breaks off and this happens or whatever, it all
Mhm.
goes in the storyline, and you don't question it
Mhm.
because I don't know how he how he could get away with like so many
Mhm.
things, but that's the whole point of a good story. Like what as you say
Mhm.
over and over and over again, you have good character development. You don't have exposition telling you, stamping it on your forehead and saying, "Oh, by the way, um, this is this is the good guy, this is the
Mhm.
bad guy.
All
Look,
right.
this is the story arc. We're good. Here's the hero's journey." Like come on, like we're not babies.
Mhm.
Like this is I've been very impressed with this, and the only thing that I would say that I would be maybe would harp on or be negative on for this whole thing is that like was this released in the theaters in 2022? Like I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah,
Um,
it was
okay, okay,
I think it was limited, but
okay.
yeah,
All right.
I was aware of it. And then when it hit, I think it hit HBO Max before I thought it was going to, and I was like
Okay.
very very excited about seeing it. And I watched it, and then we had a little bit of a break in what our release schedule, and I was like, oh man,
Right.
let's watch this one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely. This is lives up to it, and surprises you at all the right
Mhm.
spots, just like a movie should.
Yeah,
Just like
yeah,
horror or
yeah,
sci-fi or whatever. It does it.
mhm,
Pacing is really on the point.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like Pale Blue Eyes was great too.
yeah.
But it was in a different way.
Yeah,
And
I think I recommend both movies, but if you're
sure.
in more of a kind of a light breezy mood, the menu may be geared towards you. Uh, the Pale Blue Eyes maybe more if you're kind of like more kind of relaxed and want to sink into a movie, whereas the menu is sort of like right there in your face and
Right.
kind of takes you through like right away.
Yep. Yep. No, it's more modern. I think it would appeal to far more. I think people would be able to get into it a little bit quicker than they could the Pale Blue. Pale Blue Eyes is a little. It requires a little bit of an investment. I'll put
Yeah,
it that way.
yeah, and
And a good. It's worth it. No, don't get me wrong. We would
yeah.
not say that if we didn't feel that way. But
Yeah, and
um,
I think add this a little bit. That one that I talked about you the podcast that colors out of darkness
right, right, right.
the
Yep.
dark. Yeah, they were talking about Pale Blue Eyes, and they were talking about or the Pale Blue Eye how both of them that do that podcast are kind of they're in the industry so that they get all the publications, whereas like say the various streaming services and various uh you know uh people are asking for various things that they're interested in buying as far as films and streaming shows and stuff, and a lot of them are requesting for no period pieces. So
Really.
Rebecca on her podcast on that podcast was talking about how you enjoy this Pale Blue Eye right now because that may be the last you see of period pieces for a while, and that's kind of interesting. I kind of think that I kind of understand it in that if you look at Pale Blue Eye as far as casting, if you're casting a certain person for a certain role,
Mhm.
there's only a certain type of people that you could cast for that role. If you understand my meaning, and that may be why they're kind of leading towards against certain period pieces.
Huh.
If you
Well,
understand what I'm saying.
yeah, kind of. Well, I think it's no news flash that period pieces aren't really all that popular per
Right.
se. Like the only one that I can think of is that one that on Netflix that's oh god, the women it's geared toward women. It's the thing it I think it's got season 2 of it. Anyway, it's the period piece and it's like the it's very Young and the Restless, but in that period, and it's very salacious and steamy and all this.
Mhm,
I can't think of the name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
mhm.
yeah, no, I mean that's like not the only other period piece. Oh gosh, I don't know. This was a long time ago, but I like that kind of stuff once in a while,
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think the period pieces are good. They're as good as what they are. It's like if
Right,
you're making a good story, you're making a good story. It doesn't really matter where it's set or
right.
when. You could have a sci-fi interesting story. You could have a
Mhm.
story set in the past, as long as it's a good story. But yeah, I think when people get really over concerned with where it takes place, who's actually there, what what who they actually are. It gets kind of confusing, and it takes away from the actual story.
Bridgerton. That's what it was. Bridgerton. That was
All right.
period piece, like romantic kind of whatever thing. Yeah. No. Well. We'll see. But these were just two good movies. I think the
Yeah,
menu
absolutely.
for me, I kind of agree with and we don't really go into this, but I guess we're here coasting toward the end. 6.7 out of 10. I don't know. I mean, I would have probably given it a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I'd give it a 7.
Yeah, I'd say it's in the sevens now.
Mm-hmm.
Using that thing, I would definitely give this more of an 8.
Yeah,
for sure. Like this,
yeah, 8 definitely.
this is way better than a 7 for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like the other way around. But I'd say these ratings for what they are probably aren't far off the mark. As it were, but we hardly, well, you pay for what you get. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Just there's IMDb is owned by Amazon.com and all rights reserved, and their content. And no, I couldn't pull off a joke of like where I'm reading some kind of thing for Amazon. Anyway,
right.
all some jokes aside, no, Pale Blue Eye, and I've been calling it Pale Blue Eyes for whatever. I do that all the time. MS.
Yeah, I tend to get the name wrong. So movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up. I think we're looking towards 12 Monkeys for next week for our next look our podcast for next week. So look forward to that.
Very, very. I can't wait to get into that one because there's a whole bunch there. That's good. Mm-hmm. That's like, again, that kind of blends in with it. It's definitely called sci-fi.
Yeah.
Definitely a element of horror.
And I don't know if I think I kind of ran it past you, but I don't think we've actually talked about it. But I wanted this year to be the year of weird sci-fi.
Sure.
So yeah, okay. I don't know if we'll have it like once a month or ever so often, but yeah, I want us to look into weird sci-fi this year.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there's actually a couple out already, and there's one that we haven't really talked about, but we will offline. There's another HBO show that has come up with Pablo Pascal. Anyway, that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, I think this wraps up this week. Definitely wholeheartedly recommend the menu, like Thomas was saying. If you're a fan of history and you don't mind a period piece, you don't mind Downtown Abbey. I'm kidding. It's not that slow. It's not that slow. God, thank God. Or therein. Although I will say I always enjoy a good Sherlock Holmes from that period piece. But in any case, so if you're in the mood for that, you can't go wrong with it if you got the time to dedicate. Slow build, slow burn, and the menu. It's much more modern. You just jump in right off the bat. And I think we didn't talk about run times. It doesn't feel like an hour and 47 minutes when you watch the menu.
No.
The Pale Blue Eye, it's 2 hours and 8 minutes. And I think people will be kind of bump against that a little bit. Just being fair for the thing. But your mileage may vary, but it's not too much longer than probably about 20-30 minutes longer. But in any case,
I think half hour into each movie, you know whether or not you are into that movie. If you're a half hour in, if you're not really into Pale Blue Eyes, dip out because you're not going to be any further into it at that point. But yeah, either one, about half hour in. I was into both of them. Half hour in, I enjoyed both of them. I think I enjoyed the menu a little bit more than the Pale Blue Eye. But yeah, just because of the interaction between everybody, and it had a little bit more excitement to it. But yeah, both are good movies. So yeah, One's on Netflix, one's on HBO Max. So,
Yep.
depending on what service you have, if you only have one, it's definitely worth checking out if you're on that service.
Yeah, and I was gonna be cool here and do this one, and I think I already had this one ready. Yep. Yeah, they're both available now on HBO Max for Pale Blue Eye, like Thomas said, and menu on Netflix. And with that, I really enjoyed this one, and I'm glad to be back in the saddle,
Yeah.
as it were. Again, a million thanks to Thomas for rolling with the punches,
Oh,
as it
and
were.
thanks to you. I mean, I think we both had our issues just last week, so I think
Indeed,
we're all good this week.
indeed, indeed. Well, with that being said, I've been Mike,
And I'm Thomas.
and we'll see you when we see you.
Yeah, see you in the movies.
All right, 3, 2, 1, end.